Welcome to the Melrose Show. Melrose here. If you've listened to this intro before, you can click the forward button now 8 times to get to the start of this episode. So, before this version of myself, I was an artist, fashion designer, professional model, TV personality, small business owner, real estate agent, placement agent, and an institutional financial advisor, all before stepping into my current role, which I love, in investor relations and podcasting professional. Woo! It was a wild ride to get here. And after all those jobs, living in 6 countries, 16 different cities, and trying on many versions of myself, I have found that the best place to live is comfortably in my purpose and in a space and a community that allows me and wants to see me grow. And I want the same for you. Through my highly versatile career path and working with others on their dreams along the way, I decided to start this podcast to try to help people understand that life is not a race, it's a marathon. Career is not a ladder, it's a jungle gym. And that I really believe, truly, the best way in life is following curiosity. My curiosity has me focused on career, plants, shadow, light, and integration work, art, permaculture, and community building. These are my purposes in life, and for me, they all go together. They're topics that we will explore together throughout time on this podcast, and I come here to connect you to unique ideas from incredible people. The aim is to help us all grow more into our purpose-driven lives. This podcast supports a community of amazing humans that meet on full moons to howl and heal. We are a global community. Many are interviewed on this podcast, and I invite you to join us offline after the show. Now, sit back, relax, and enjoy this exploration journey with people from around the world who have self-actualized in their lives in some way. Hopefully, they will inspire you in your own authentic journey. Enjoy! Nothing in this podcast is a recommendation. Welcome to season 2. We are here with House of Puff, 2 magical goddesses in the room, and I'm going to let them introduce themselves, and we're going to jump right in. So, ladies, take it away.
I am Kristina Lopez. I am the founder and CEO of House of Puff, and I am really excited to dive in with you, Melrose. I've listened to your podcast before, and we're so happy that you're having us on, and we can talk all things House of Puff and more, and a little more about our journeys.
Ditto that. I am Holly Hager, and I am the COO and principal, Kristina's co-founder of House of Puff, and I'm also really excited to be here.
Thank you for joining us, ladies. I remember when we met, it was at a cannabis conference in the Hamptons, and I kept coming back for more cannabis drinks from the people that were next to you. And
yeah, oh my God. Wow, that was so long ago.
It feels like a really long time ago. And we just hit it off. I think we all were kind of like wide-eyed looking at each other. It turned out that I was working with a company that you were working with, and we were kind of diving into how that was going. And one thing led to another, and now I'm a really big fan of what you're doing. So tell us, what is House of Puff? And then we're going to dive into your backgrounds and how you came to this company.
So me and Holly have our own fun iterations of what House of Puff is, because it really is so much. We are a woman-owned, Latina-led business, and essentially we create sophisticated content, products, experiences with the goal to destigmatize cannabis consumption. We're based in New York City, very proud of it. We partner with pioneering and industry-leading brands to transform cannabis into a symbol of elegance and inclusivity. I know Holly will probably touch on this. We both come from the background of art. We both had prior art companies, joined forces. So it's important to us that we leverage the power of art to make cannabis chic, easy, and welcoming.
I love that definition. I can't wait to hear Holly's.
Kristina started this company before me. She came up with this idea when she was on bed rest with her twins, because she didn't have enough to do with running another successful art magazine or media company. So she thought she'd start House of Puff as well. She and I had collaborated with each other for quite a while, and I was just so impressed with her and with this vision, and with the fact that she and I had both been using cannabis on the New York medical program for years. And we'd gone out for drinks. We talked about some real personal things. We never discussed cannabis. So that's a testament to how close to the vest a lot of women keep their cannabis use. I was really excited to tag along on her journey because that is the point, is to destigmatize. And we both feel like there's nothing that changes minds and culture more than art does. So by melding art with cannabis, we feel like that's the ultimate destigmatizer.
I love that. I think that one of the first things we talked about was how you were using different artists for the papers, and you showed me some of them and I was like, wow, these are beautiful. These are the prettiest papers I've ever seen. And then I got to see some of your products and I was like, okay, these are artists. Yes, look at those. They're gorgeous. I know I'm going to bring over some of my product because I ordered some. So why cannabis? Tell us a little bit about your backstories. You know, I'm also a believer in cannabis. I have the same birthday as Bob Marley, which very few people know about me, but I think it's one of the coolest things about me.
Love that.
Wild.
And I'm also a former artist. I was a fashion designer for 15 years. I wanted to be a painter. It's a long story of why I did not become a painter, but I think art is the great motivator. I've been studying a lot of Jung lately, and what people don't know about Jung actually is that when he got through the dark night of his soul, he was convinced that people, when they achieve that moment where they get through their wholeness, that they should all be artists and creators. And so people don't know that he was creating like these big sculptures behind his house until the day he died. And I think it is a testament that one of the modern founders of our psychology came to the realization that art is actually the ultimate manifestation of our experiences, and it is what brings us together, and it's how we release ourselves into the world. So beautiful to combine the two, but why and how did you get to that point? Tell us a little bit about the backstory.
Yeah, so Holly and I met each other at Art Basel. We were both sitting on a panel about feminism in art, and I see this vision of a redhead. She's like head to toe in designer. I'm like, okay, we're gonna be friends. But she also has such a beautiful mind. She's a fantastic writer. So we decided to collaborate with my art company at the time. And we did a lot of wonderful stuff. Holly's an incredible art collector, so we featured her. We launched a series called Art Power Woman, where we interviewed and highlighted BIPOC, LGBTQ artists, women artists who don't get enough play, to be honest, or can't afford publicists and make beautiful things, but just people don't know about them. And we did that for quite some time. And then, as Holly mentioned, we didn't realize that each other was consuming cannabis. And so she bought up one of our first products was the Nebula rolling tray. And I want to say that all of our products start in the artist studio, right? So we're not getting stuff from overseas and just slapping our logo on it. Everything is proprietary to us. And I realized I had something big with House of Puff, and I had to sell my art magazine. So the first person that I went to was, of course, Holly. And we sat down and I had this whole business plan prepared. And she says to me, I'm not really interested in the art business. I'm actually interested in the other business. And I was like, the cannabis business? And from there, we dated, right? Because we had both been burned by co-founders and colleagues in the past. And when you're building a company, your co-founder is literally the most important person. It can make or break your company. So we dated for a few months, and at the end of it, we realized, wow, we really work really well together. And it's been love ever since.
Oh, that is the dream. I struggled with that when I had my clothing company. I went through quite a few situations where I was going to bring a partner on, and we couldn't get the same vibe, you know? And it was like, we're going to be married for 10 to 20 years, you know, like hopefully.
Yeah.
But you don't know how long, and you're going to be with this person more than your partner. You better really have a synergy. So that's such a beautiful story.
And I want to say, to your point about the artist series, Holly is, as I mentioned, a phenomenal art collector. And she knows a lot about licensing and artwork and paying. And a lot of these artists don't get to see the money that they deserve. And she was like, listen, we have the power to transform culture and influence into social action. And so it was really her vision with the artist rolling papers.
That's Kristina selling herself a little bit short, because she was already only employing artists to make her products, which was wonderful. And I thought that was incredibly wonderful, that here was a way. We had both been struggling to try to promote women artists and BIPOC artists and all of these people who the art world wasn't so inclusive of. And one of the best ways to help those people along in their career is to pay them. But, there's only so much art you can collect unless you want to put it in warehouses. And I don't. I want to live with it. I want it to be part of people's lives. So the opportunity was to be able to not only employ ceramicists to make stoneware, but to also then license paintings and other works from artists. And one of the things that we do with those artists, like the ones that we put on our rolling papers, is we look for works that they've already sold, because visual art is the one place where artists don't get any royalties. So they don't see the real upside from their early works, only the collectors do. And we wanted to change that and give them a way to earn passive income from something they'd already sold and really get that long-term benefit.
So interesting. So one of the other women who's on the earlier episodes of this podcast is this woman, Tina, who is a fine artist, a painter who I lived with when I was modeling in Germany. She would rent out a closet that had a mattress in it for the models that came through. And she's an amazing person. And we have this conversation a lot, because it's like, you have to sacrifice in life to be an artist. And it's so sad, because the artists are such an important part of our world. I mean, I think it's very interesting when you see people from Europe come over to America and they're like, your buildings are so ugly. You're like, yeah, because we just like put up a box because it's cost effective and we're capitalists and we don't care about art. Probably my favorite thing, which I have to turn the camera off for this, that I bought from you guys, girls, is this like lavender match with the, you swipe them on the bottom. And then I got these two together because I think I love yellow and purple. And so tell us a little bit about these pieces and what I'm holding in my hands right now. I'm so obsessed with the design that goes into these things and we'll get to the product that you have next, but I want to dive into what those are and like how something like this beautiful piece comes into creation.
I'll take this one, because my favorite part of my job is working with the artists to develop products. And we give them a lot of rope to really be creative and to show their vision. So you're talking about our Manhattan match striker. A lot of ceramicists make match strikers. It's an easy thing to make, but we wanted one that really looked like House of Puff. And so what we got to eventually was a match striker that, first of all, we're all about color, and you got to have the color coordinated matches. That's part of what makes it really special. But also, it's not the first thing that hits you, but subconsciously, this is a female silhouette. And that was what we worked on. We wanted an abstracted female silhouette for the product, because it just makes it feel special. And then this is our Aster hemp wicks, ashtray and hemp wick set. Hemp wicks, if you're not a consumer of cannabis, you may not realize this is just hemp, and it's organic hemp coated with organic beeswax, made by two lovely Latin gay men down in Florida. They make it for us and we source it from them. It's great for you because instead of when you light up directly with a lighter or with a match, you're breathing in those accelerants, the butane and things like that. You don't want to breathe those things in. Most people a lot of women who are using cannabis are using it medicinally. So that's the last thing you want to do. So instead, you use the hemp wick, and you light the hemp wick first, and it burns at also a lower temperature than something with an accelerant would burn at. So you don't burn up your cannabinoids. It's less waste. And then we had our ceramicist just make this lovely little hemp wick holder, which looks like a macaron. And we tie the hemp wick in there and you can replace it. And the other thing is, if you flip it over, it's a portable ashtray. But we made it with this set because we thought that looked better to sit on your coffee table.
It's so cool. Sorry, we should have gotten to the product later, but I'm so obsessed with it. I want to talk about it. We have more products to talk about, and for those who are just listening, they're beautiful. You should go on their website. All of their links are going to be in the show notes. The website is so magical. Your YouTube page is also magical. I guess let's just start with why aren't there more people doing luxury and cannabis together? And how do you stand out in that space? And tell us a little bit about the journey to get to that. Since you're doing art, it led you to luxury or vice versa?
Yeah,
Since you're both so luxurious, it just went together.
Yeah, I think luxury can have all types of meanings. And so we like to call ourselves affordable luxury, accessible luxury. We just value beautiful things. We value beautiful art, of course. We value discretion. Part of the problem is when we went to go look for products, especially me when I was first starting out, everything was very phallic, masculine, black and blue. Like, I live a very colorful life. I love to surround myself with color. I want something that I can leave out on the kitchen table without, my mother being like, is this a bong or is this a rolling tray? It looks like it belongs in your home. So it's really luxury for us is just really living your life well and integrated, whether you consume cannabis or not. A lot of our products, like our barrel bowl, like my mom uses it for salt and pepper. So it's not just about, we don't even like to call ourselves a cannabis brand. We just happen to make beautiful cannabis accessories and products because we really do want to normalize a conversation around cannabis.
I love that. And so what was the process like for you to get into this company? Once you realized that you had a match, how had that process been? When was that? Where are we now?
Well, the pandemic happened and I gave birth, and Holly and I were trying to figure out how do we scale this company, right? Like, we were already direct to consumer, and of course, like, we were in a few stores, but we realized if everybody was going to be home, we needed to build a community. And against my will for a very long time, Holly was like, I think we need to start a blog and I think we need to start a YouTube channel. And I was like, are you we don't have time for that. We can't do. And Holly was like, listen, we can just buy a site, WordPress it up. I think we started on Squarespace and then they booted us off. And then, took out our iPhone cameras and just started filming. And I think we went from, I don't know, 46,000, of a digital reach in 2021 to, like, right now we're at what, Holly? 4 million, 24. Yeah. Like,
I mean, we're getting close to 3 million views.
And so that's organic, by the way, like, because as you know, you can't take out ads on Instagram, especially on YouTube. So that's organic, no paid marketing. We've 25 million consumers, all because we are great at content marketing. And Holly and our entire team, we have a great team of marketers and content creators where, again, we have to reach people where they are, and it has to be beautiful content. It's not, nobody wants to see Joe downstairs in his mom's basement rolling a joint. Women are not going to relate to that. So what did we do? We were like, all right, let's do a joint rolling video, filmed it on the iPhone. And I think till this day, we're one of the top 5 most joint rolling videos on YouTube if you type in how to roll a joint.
I mean, it's a testament to the cannabis market. Since you can't advertise, it is proof that women are looking for women-oriented content in this sector, and that we want community in the sector. I think more than ever, people are buying experiences when they buy things. So I think it really matters to have a place that we can identify with, because also the Canna Babes vibe, like, no New York woman, no corporate woman wants to identify with a projection of the men out there in something that's healing us and something that's bringing joy to our lives and allowing us to process our experiences in a really whole way. I mean, let's talk a little bit about women and cannabis and why we're all so pro cannabis. I think there's a reason, there's always a story of why I use cannabis as a female. And we live in a place that has made it illegal on purpose for a long time. So let's like talk a little bit. You ladies, you goddesses, have a lot of metrics and knowledge about women in the cannabis space. So can we dive into that a little bit? Maybe a little about your personal story, but also about the overall market and how big it actually is and how it's growing.
Well, Holly
Yeah.
has a very interesting story. If she's, you've shared it before, but I think Holly's story on how she came into cannabis is really something that, you know, people should hear.
Yeah, Kristina and I do share some background as well from our childhoods, in that we both grew up in very religious households. My dad was an evangelical minister, and cannabis was not in any way, any drug was not even liquor or not wine. Nothing was okay in my house. So that was just not something that was done. And I was very afraid of those kinds of things because I was a good girl. But then I developed an autoimmune disease. I didn't get a diagnosis until I was 40. I had used, you know, like everyone, I had tried cannabis a few times, but so often it was some guy offering it to me because he wanted to get me fucked up, to be honest. And so I used it haphazardly, but again, when it's not legal, sometimes it felt good. Sometimes it was like, I don't like this feeling. It's too much. And dosing was really difficult and all of
It has
that.
metals in it.
Yeah, exactly. And my autoimmune disease is rather difficult. It's a multisystemic inflammatory disorder that can be really debilitating. So I'd had a lot of trouble with it. And unfortunately, there's no good treatment for what I have. It's called sarcoidosis. Not that anyone would know that unless you watched a lot of House when you were younger. But it's really difficult to treat. And the only treatments are things like, oh, okay, take this drug, but you got to test your eyes every day because you could go blind overnight taking this drug. Or take this steroid every day for the rest of your life. And yes, there's, as a doctor said to me, there's a good chance you'll be in a wheelchair in 5 years because of the steroids, because it can turn your hips to necrotic tissue. And I was like, I got enough problems. I don't need drugs that will make me feel worse. And then I was seeing my neurologist because I also have chronic migraines. And he said, you know, you got all these issues. He said, how about cannabis? And he was this like 65-year-old, very straight-laced Jewish man, had no sense of humor. And I said, well, I don't think that's legal. And he said, that's not what I asked you. I asked you if it helps, if you feel better when you use it. And I said, well, thinking back on it, yeah, I think it does make me feel better. And he said, we should get you on the New York Medical Program. And so I didn't tell anybody. I told my husband, but I didn't tell him like when I was using it because I didn't want anybody to think I was this stoner slacker person. I'm such a type A personality. That was so not me. So I started using it and it really helped me. And it took me a while to figure it out, the right doses and the right form factors and all of that. But once I started using it regularly, it just made a massive difference in my health and allowed me to really be my best self.
I love that story. And it's so interesting because I'm in quite a few women in cannabis groups. And since I've now worked in private equity cannabis, I'm in the community, whether I want to be or not. And I hear stories, not your stories, but similar stories where I was on drugs from the doctor. There were side effects. I was sick of it. It was interacting. I couldn't take it anymore. It wasn't actually even helping. And then I found cannabis and it like literally changed my life. It's like, well, why does it do that? Well, we have an endocannabinoid system in every single organ in our body. So we're perfectly made for this plant, right? And it's a crime against humanity that it's scheduled and illegal, but us finding our way to it brings our stories full circle because the relief that we feel and being able to be real people again after getting it into our lives. I've had long periods where I don't use it and I'm like, why were those years so hard? It's like, I wasn't using this tool that I knew about. I was like, the remembering is also very sweet. So Kristina, you want to share a little about your story of how you came to cannabis?
Yeah, like Holly said, I grew up in a very strict household, a Puerto Rican household. So I wasn't really exposed to cannabis. Like I saw it in college and high school, but it really wasn't it wasn't my thing. I was also just like Holly, very type A and just nervous. And when I moved to New York, I was having trouble sleeping. I was starting a company and I was anxious and, had a little bit of insomnia, and I wanted to stop taking the Z-Quils of the world and NyQuil, and it's just as bad as Xanax or any of them, really. And the hard part is when you don't sleep, next day, you can't be productive. So I was like, I have to get off this train. So I had spent some time at the Michael J. Fox Foundation for Parkinson's research. And that's where I had first heard about cannabis being used for medicinal purposes for patients specifically with dyskinesia. My mom's also a physician. So I asked her, I said, what is up with this cannabis thing that I'm hearing? It's like actual medicine and is helping people with glaucoma, cancer, anxiety, depression, insomnia. And so I was like, I'm going to try it. I will never forget. I was living in the West Village. I was sitting on my couch. I took a puff out of this gross bong. It was like the worst like college bong ever. And I felt like something unlocked in me, like something just released itself. And I was like, oh my God, now I get it. And like Holly, I didn't share it with anybody. And 65% of women are still not sharing with people. And they're finding really discreet ways about how to consume cannabis. And women are spending a lot of money in cannabis. I think 33% of women spend $100 a month on cannabis. 91% of women purchase it legally every month. So we are here, we are consuming cannabis, and we need to talk about it. And we hope that House of Puff is one of those avenues where we can all come together, whether you're buying our products, whether you're talking to me and Holly, whether you're watching us on YouTube or our blog, where you feel like, this is okay and it's good for me.
Yes. Oh my gosh, I love that. So we have 3 type A women who grew up in religious houses who didn't touch cannabis until midlife. Well, I started in high school because I had alienated myself because I was such a good girl. And I was like, don't have sex, don't do drugs. And then I'm like, I have no friends. I need to do some of this stuff. But what I realized was I always used art as a way to disappear and to just go into a whole place where time didn't exist. And I would find that I could do the same thing with work with cannabis. I had this opposite effect that it seemed like people were having, where it would really help me focus and I would really get into the zone, and I would actually go back to my art, and it would bring me to my art, and it would create space spiritually for me so I could go into my art. And it was a really helpful tool in college as well. So, okay, we've got 3 women here who traditionally probably never would have found their way to cannabis, are pretty type A and high functioning. Let's talk about like smoking, right? Like I feel like I watched my dad die from lung cancer. I'm not into smoke. I don't really consume sugars. So I like gummies, but I'm a tincture girl. But there's this new product that's out that we might want to talk about that's pretty fancy and cool. And I don't know if we want to talk about it here, but
No, we totally can.
there's this thing going around, and House of Puff is leading the charge on it. And I think women will love this because I've been reducing my alcohol intake. I do drink alcohol sometimes here and there, but not often. I really like to wake up and work out and have my full day and feel cognitive all day. And as the older I get, I think the less alcohol I consume. But when I go to a party or I'm being social, I really want a cannabis drink. So tell me what you've invented next. And this is kind of phase 2. This is like the second House of Puff, I feel like. There's a few houses. And I also want to say, I remember when I first met you, I was like, this is such an amazing brand. There needs to be like a boat of Puff and like a fashion of Puff. Like all things happen.
Boat of Puff coming soon.
I'm like,
Yes.
puff. So anyways, let's talk about this new idea of how I can get cannabis into my system discreetly, or brag about it to the people that I'm with and let them know that I'm cooler than them.
Well, this one started with me because as much as our core business started with smoking products, and by the way, we always intended to get into consumables, but it was a strategic choice to start with accessories because it was a good entry point. But it was very frustrating for me because with my inflammation and this disease I have, it mainly attacks people in the lungs. Now, I'm lucky in that I don't have it in my lungs as much as other people who have it. But smoking for me is not something that I want to do much of the time. And when I would smoke, it was always, okay, I've worked late. I don't have time to take an edible to have it hit in time to get me to sleep and to give me that pain relief that I need for the nighttime. But okay, so I've got to smoke because I've got to get that quick hit. So we were talking about that a lot. And I use tinctures as well, but tinctures are not exactly, you don't want to whip out a tincture, in a public place. It just feels too medicinal and weird, and people will ask about it. And, again, women like to be discreet with our cannabis use because we don't want to be judged. We get judged for too many other things.
Everything.
So, yeah. So we came up with the idea of making a sublingual, but that would be in a little spray vial, and one that you could put under your tongue. And what's beautiful is because there's mucous membranes under your tongue, anything you do sublingually hits much faster. So the Spritz is an oral spray. You spray it in your mouth. It looks like breath spray, or it's water soluble. You can spray it in your drink, in your cocktail. You're not going to take a cannabis beverage to a bar or a restaurant. Hi, here's my big 6-pack. Let's go for the evening. No,
I've
no one's
thought
gonna
about
do
it many times. I still think about it. I'm like, why don't they sell these cannabis drinks instead of alcohol?
Exactly. But the nice thing about the Spritz is I leave it in my bag at all times. And we found that almost all our customers, that's what they do. They leave it in their bag at all times. They have it when they're on the go. If I'm going out and I need that little lift to talk to people I don't know, I'll just have a little Spritz in the cab before I get there. And we have two kinds. We have one that has, it's more THC than CBD. And that one is more of the social kind of up feeling. We call it social Spritz. And then we have Serenity Spritz, which includes a little bit of CBN. And so that's more calming, depending on what kind of mood you want to be in. It's also, I travel a lot. And when I travel, 8 sprays of the Spritz under my tongue, and I am out for the night.
That's great.
Awesome.
As a mom, it's hard for me to want to go smoke, or I don't want to have my kids smelling myself. Like, not that I really care, but like for me, I'm like, I want to, be presentable. So after a long day, just right before I hop in the shower, 2 sprays under my tongue, and it just sort of balances me out. And I think that microdosing products, especially for women, are on the up and up. More people are looking for, they don't want to get blasted out of their mind with 50 mgs of a gummy. And that's the other thing with gummies. Sometimes it's hard to control when they hit. So you take one and then an hour later, you're like, I don't feel anything. Then you make the mistake of taking another one and then you're out for the count. So it was really important for us that it was controllable, microdosing, super discreet. Oh, there it is. That's it without the wrapper.
Yeah.
Oh, it's beautiful.
This is one of our prototypes for our new hemp derived Delta 9 formula. So it's just very discreet. No one would know what it is.
So little. You can literally put it in your pocket. You don't even need a purse. It's great.
Nope.
I've like kind of become anti-purse. If it doesn't have pockets, I don't buy it, and I don't want to carry something around now. I love that. I think smoking around kids is really terrible, but not having cannabis when you are around kids is also terrible. So it's like this thing where you're like, oh, finally something that like I can do it when I'm around a bunch of kids. No one's going to judge me, but less judgment than if you have a joint. So how's it going with the Spritz? So tell us about how it's been to launch and what the reception has been. Cause I've been on some calls and some of your advisors are like, we have to make more cause I'm not able to live without it. So
it is so true. I think they're secretly just want us to raise money because they just want to stock up for themselves. So we launched the Spritz in New York in February. at the beginning of February, end of January, and we sold out of all of our units. We had an average order value 26% higher than anything of any of our other products, and a 282% post-launch revenue increase. So that little hockey stick. And we realized, okay, we have something here. We were the only spray in the adult use market, and we got a lot of great feedback. So naturally, as House of Puff does, we take it another step further, and we were getting emails, DMs, phone calls. I don't live in New York. Where can I get the spritz? And every single time we're like, we're sorry, you can't. Until we all put our heads together and realize, why don't we take this nationwide? And why don't we do the spritz in a hemp-derived Delta-9 formula? And that's what we're raising money for, to bring the spritz to spritz everybody.
I love it. And the Delta-9, like, how do you feel about the Delta-9 compared to the THC?
Oh my, well, I had to get myself a little PhD in hemp-derived cannabinoids because I was very worried. Everyone in our company needs cannabis for medicinal reasons. And so we're all really concerned about what we put in our bodies. So there's a couple different ways to make hemp-derived cannabinoids. A lot of the stuff that you see, especially on the illicit market, is synthetic cannabinoids, and they're made with some really nasty chemicals, but more importantly, they're creating new molecules that literally the scientists do not know what they do to your body. And certainly Delta-8 has shown some really bad results, winding people up in emergency rooms across the nation. And that's not something we're interested in. The other way to make it is to just take a boatload of industrial hemp and process it and extract the naturally occurring Delta-9 THC, which is the exact same thing that's in what the government terms as marijuana, and the cannabis that you see in dispensaries. It's the exact same THC. It just, to be industrial hemp in the United States, it can only be 0.3% of the plant by dry weight. So you're not getting anything unnatural with Delta-9 THC. It's just a lot of hemp processed to concentrate it into enough to be potent enough to give you a good feeling.
Amazing. I want to just address one thing really interesting that I think our listeners are going to like to hear about, which what is like this, but like the spiritual journey of being a business owner and partners with each other, but also like women working in cannabis. What has that like spiritual process been like for you? I mean, it's not an easy industry. There are a lot of shady people in the industry, but also spiritually as a woman trying to operate any business is hard. So spiritually, how are you doing with this process? Because I know you've been through your battles so far and we're in the very beginning still. So how are you feeling spiritually about all of this?
I will say, Holly and we surround ourselves with incredible colleagues, and all of our colleagues are spiritual goddesses. Our CMO, Amy, really has, I mean, she will just say the most profound things about spirituality, being calm, grounding ourselves, go outside, go stick your feet in the ground and just take a deep breath. You've got this. Like, she's so utterly positive when Holly and I just want to punch everybody sometimes. We're so fortunate that we have our sisterhood of our team that really grounds us. And then for me on a personal level, like, I am very spiritual. I'm religious. I go to church every Sunday. So I really look towards my family and God to get me through a lot of the tough stuff that we've had to deal with as being entrepreneurs in a very tough industry, especially now, the economic climate and environment and the politics, everything is so heavy. So, I have my family and I have my church, but more importantly, I have my team. They ground me. Wouldn't be able to do it without them.
Oh, I love that. We do need the sisterhood. It's something that we are like trained to buckle at, but we do in business and in life, we have to have those relationships. It's hard to function without them, for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah, we like men a lot, but we've ended up only hiring
We'll
women.
keep them around for now.
We hired one man for a little while. He was lovely, but then he got a Broadway show.
I love that.
Yes, but this myth that women can't work together is insane because we've created a culture. Now, granted, that we've definitely had women who we brought in who were like, that's not a fit. But we've been super careful about creating a culture and bringing people into the company who are positive and who really understand that it's about growing together. And yet we also don't pull any punches. We are very open with each other and straight with each other about when something's not working, but we do it in a kind, open way. And now we have our whole team is like that. And it's just the most amazing place to work. So while I am not a church goer, having grown up the way I did, I am a deep meditator, and cannabis for me really takes that to another level as well. So by surrounding myself with great people, I mean, that was one of the reasons Kristina and I business dated for 6 months before we got married and signed the papers, and just being really careful about manifesting all of that positivity in everyone around me.
Oh, okay. I'm happy I asked that question. I think it's what you're building is really beautiful. I want to see it succeed. I really need to order some Spritz.
This is an innovative product. We have a unique, beautiful brand. There's high demand for a product like this. We're already across the nation and across the world, really. Thailand, Australia, Germany. So now it's time to really be able to give access to this product to the 38 plus states that we can sell this in and direct to consumer. We have a track record, right? We've already built this amazing brand with 25 million consumers and listeners and followers. And so we're ready for rapid growth and to take it to the next level.
Who's your dream investor?
Rihanna.
Rihanna, are you listening? Rihanna would be an amazing ally and investor.
I know, right? I like she
Okay,
would.
we're gonna send her this podcast and she's gonna invest in you. I can feel it already.
She's gold. But I do want to say one thing about marketing, Melrose. Like, marketing is so important, right? There is a lack of sophisticated, convenient, like cannabis options. We're bringing that. And we need to drive brand awareness and attract customers and build loyalty through strategic marketing, advertising, PR, influencer marketing, content creation. I always like to justify why our marketing, because we have to show them why they should be buying this product. And everybody's online, everybody's on TikTok, everybody's on Instagram.
I agree with you. And I think what you have is amazing. I really believe in House of Puff. I've been a fan for years. So let's get out there and share this podcast. If you're listening to this podcast and something has struck a chord with you, please share it with somebody who you think might find value in the content that we've created today. Women need each other in business. The reason why many male-led companies get to the stage where they can take on growth capital is because of a network and because they share and it's inherent to them. So we have to ask each other to share things that we believe in. I'm fine doing the ask at this point in my life. I don't think House of Puff is a big ask. All we really want is as much spray as we need today to get us through the day, right? So any closing words? I know we all have hard stops, but thank you for your time. And I'm just so excited to watch you grow and to check back in a few years and see what we can report.
Thank you. My only closing remark is thank you for doing this. Thank you for having a platform for women and companies and brands that you believe in. There are not enough Melroses in this lifetime. And so everybody gets so caught up with their own lives and their schedule, and they're so busy. And you taking the time to interview brands and women that you believe in and amplify them is really incredible.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for this opportunity and for, bringing your beautiful self into our lives.
So excited to be a part of this team. Thank you for today, and stay tuned for what's next. If you want to check out all their links or their materials, there's going to be links in the show notes. Hey, all you Seastars, goddesses, naiads, and Neptunes, aka the paradisiacs, who care about the important stuff. I hope you all found some inspiration today, and I hope to have your beautiful souls back for our next episode. This podcast supports a beautiful group of humans who gather on full moons, and to find a link for Howl and Heal and for our website with these episodes, details, and blog, head to themelroseshow.com. You can also connect with me on IG at Melrose Wild or at the Melrose Podcast. Again, this is Melrose. I hope after you listen to this conversation, you feel some magic brewing in your own destiny. Thank you for listening, and please subscribe or follow us to get updates on new episodes. And if you love this podcast, the best compliment is to rate us with 5 stars and maybe leave a little love note about how this podcast might be helping you. Have a wonderful day, and may the forces of wholeness and growth be with you all.